Okay, hi everyone. Just a really quick update. Well, probably won't be that quick, but really quick on BTC and ETH, or at least anyway, and the majors, because I need to look at them in more detail and look at some of the data behind them. So, obviously, we had a long consolidation, which never took out the stocks below, which is what I was hoping for. That obviously it doesn't necessarily happen. I haven't really been focusing on this because I wanted to finish my entire alt watch list per the 10 other ridiculously long streams I posted. Yeah, so we got a big move out of this consolidation back up into this daily zone, which was where I had NEXA alerted. We've had some good confluence on lots of things hitting resistance. So yeah, like I said before, like I've said a number of times, so CME pair, we've made 3-week demand now, so that's interesting. We wanted to hold this 8 hour, which is shown on all the charts, which CME more cleanly held, whereas the others sort of were bouncing a little bit above, other than the first wick. But yeah, we're just sort of looking now, is this going to break out or is it going to reject here? So obviously I had a decent drop from the post ETF. Didn't quite hit my level at the top at the 3-week. We've also got an untested 3-day up here, and there's a CME gap somewhere in here as well, for what it's worth. But really just looking as to what kind of rejection we get here now, if any. Obviously it's given us a local rejection, but in the grand scheme of things this isn't very much. At the moment I'll probably still be looking below that trend line if we come down here for a retest. The other thing I want to have another look at as well is that, like you can see, it's sort of forming potentially a broadening wedge or possibly a diamond top. So again, I want to compare the PA to the diamond that we had at the bottom. I don't think it's that similar, but I had a diamond pattern drawn in here as well. And again, that was front running the preferred entry, and I'm wondering again if we're going to do that at the top, like front run the preferred entry, you know, which probably for a lot of people is going to be 50k. Yeah, so that's Bitcoin. On US dollars, Tether is basically the same. That, as you know, we came off weekly supply. We are bearish in the bigger picture, but it could make a higher low here if it wants. It's found support on previous highs, and the aggregated US dollar pairs are in better demands. They're in monthly in this case, and 6 monthly in the case of the one with BUSD. I haven't updated these as yet. So yeah, really, obviously not a surprise to get the rejection off the weekly zone, and it's just a question of, is it going to pick up support? For the case of the totals, again, total is going to look very similar to Bitcoin. It did have a weekly supply in here. It's gone obviously very high inside it, back up hitting the monthly level. Ether's still got that relative weakness so far, but again, Ether, we've still got that gap to proper resistance if it chooses to go there. Whether it will do that without Bitcoin at this point is debatable, because the ETH BTC chart remains relatively weak. And then alts. Alts is similar to a lot of the updates I've been giving recently, have been sort of saying that we've had this, like, if you can see this on the lower time frames, we've got these triangles. So I've been reluctant to put new shorts in, although I have in some cases the ones that appear to be cleaner, and also the ones with weekly supply, but Total 3 doesn't have that. But again, just looking now, are we going to get a breakout, or are we going to get a lower high? And a lot of the alts look like this. They've made 1-day, 3-day demands in here after the pump yesterday, varying strengths on that pump. And are we going to come back, hold here for the significant move up, or again, is this the top? So it remains to be seen, but with alts I would just suggest looking at, you know, the ones that look strong are the ones that have tapped supply like this multiple times. So this supply is all weak now because it's all been tested repeatedly. We're still holding structure on the high time frame. That's Total 3, and I think others is basically the same. So others is the top 10, sorry, excluding the top 10 alts as well as Bitcoin and Ether. again, still holding weekly demand in I think a 4 or 5 day supply there. Hit the 2-day inside, which again a lot of alts have hit it. I had a lot of alerts on 2-day supply, it's a slightly different structure, but on alts I had quite a lot of alerts on that 2-day supply, so they're just showing that rejection now. Are they going to pick up demand for that bigger move up? And it's promising, I guess, for Bitcoin that it's made a 3-week demand now, or at least the CME pair has, and assuming we don't crash before tomorrow, the US dollar and Korea pairs will as well. Yeah, so like I say, still holding demand, can still make a bigger move up. And on alts and ether, we do have a significant amount of space to what I would consider true supply. Sort of in this middle of this, we consider this upper range. Oops. Range here. We've broken through those highs. Could have come a bit lower. I wouldn't have minded testing the weekly here before the move up. But again, still strong for now. Just a question of if we're going to bounce and up, or mess around here a bit longer for more of a consolidation. Yeah, so that's that. Ether, so we've had a lot of confidence on this high. So Ether, like again, as you may remember, I was looking for this 1-day, 2-day zone to be hit with the fibs. That was preferable. So I hadn't predicted this, but I predicted this sort of on the day. I was like, oh look, we just hit the, I think that was the monthly VWAP at that point in time. Gave a nice rejection there again, held the weekly demand. So again, the structure, while this was sort of more nerve-wracking, and we are coming from monthly supply, so it was more nerve-wracking that we might break down this weekly here. It did hold, so we are holding this bigger weekly demand and the 5-day that was created at the top of this impulse. So again, that structure is still bullish, but with the disclaimer, sorry, just do a quick update, with the disclaimer that we are coming off monthly supply on this up here, and that, you know, messy circle that I've had for a very long time. So again, just looking at what kind of rejection we get here, and or if we can hold for a bigger move up. Is this going to create, I haven't checked if this is going to create any 3-week demand, but probably not. No. So no 3-week demand on this, and probably no weekly, or possibly a weekly if it closes. I think we're getting a 1-week, 2-week and 3-week close this week. Might create a 2-week here. So again, if you're trying to short this, just be a bit careful, because it's possible it closes just above and then comes right off the top of it at the start of the new week. So that's Ether, but again, now we've got a sort of daily demand down here now. So I'll look at these again later and actually try and make some judgments of where I think longs could be. And like I said, my preference on Bitcoin would be that it would take out stops if it were to go back that low. Because what tends to happen is that you'll either consolidate up here for another move. It doesn't tend to give the retest if it's legitimately bullish. I speculate as to whether it's really legitimately bullish, like OI really wasn't supporting moves up, but I just don't know if spot is the one that's really driving it. I haven't done much analysis on spot because it's always been OI driving, but now because we've got the ETFs, we've got a lot more spot driving the price. And again, on CME, it looks like we're making a new weekly demand, or is that the one that was there? No, that was the one that was there previously. So yeah, just in areas of interest for shorting, so certainly look for entries if you can on the lower time frames. It's possible this will create on 4 hours, possible it's going to create an 8-hour supply. Be conscious that demand is very, very close on this. And in the case of the Korea pair has already hit 8-hour demand. So just look and see what strength we're going to get off that push. Old majors, I did throw in another Litecoin entry, which I didn't have anything in previous streams, so I just sort of saw that 12-hour there and judged it by where the market was at and threw in a short for Litecoin there. EOS, I've been said a number of times I wanted the EOS market top signal, so I was waiting a long time for EOS to make this zone, which it did yesterday. But again, like a lot of alts, it's now got 3-day demand, stacked 3-day demands. It's in a tentative weekly supply, but again, is in weekly demand, so it's just messy. But again, it did give a nice confluence for shorting, but just need to see it break down now. Litecoin's obviously got a bit more space, so that's probably a better short. BCH did have a weekly supply actually, but it's gone right through. It was very weak because you can see it only closed very, very slightly below that black line. So that 2-day must be confirmed by now. Yeah. So also new 2-day demands in there. And again, remember I was overly bullish on this because we had this monthly demand put in. Again, not a very strong one, but it was there. So this could still get another move up. But again, just choppy, messy. And Ripple basically the same. Like a Ripple I haven't been doing anything on because I haven't liked the, like while we're in this 3-month demand, like overall I really just don't like this chart. I just think it's messy. And like I've said a few times, I just don't like this. I have far too many alerts on this, I need to delete some. What a waste of alerts, 5 alerts. Yeah, so I really wanted to come down properly into this monthly demand at least, but overall I just don't really like this chart. It feels like, you know, we had a strong impulse, we had a less strong impulse, and now we've got like a really shitty impulse or correction. So I still feel like this could potentially go all the way back down here. But we'll see, and maybe it's just lower volatility than it has been previously. But Ripple I've just been leaving alone. I did have an alert on this weekly supply up here, but again, hasn't got anywhere near it yet. Made a 3-day closer to price, but it's just sort of tapped into that. It hasn't really done very much at all. So that's the old majors. New majors, BNB I was obviously saying that was more bullish, and to watch that for breakouts. Didn't get a long entry on it, but has had a push up, has broken out of the triangle. So again, this is one of the stronger ones showing that triangle breakout. LUNC obviously already had the breakout, and I've talked about this before, but it did hit 3-month supply, so I'm not surprised we've had a big stall here. And also that is what happened previously when we had the breakout on LUNC before everything else back in November. It just went sideways from November until now. I mean, I would like to think that extended consolidation is going to give us more than this, but be careful if it comes and starts breaking back into this range, which you could argue is a bit lower, around 16, but if it comes back onto here, then we're looking at a deviation above the range and likely to go and take out the bottom of the range, which is what I wanted originally, down to proper demands down here. I did have a re-entry, do have a re-entry here for, there was an hourly supply in there just for that lower high. It didn't come back up enough, and then did make a daily supply underneath it, so it's come off a bit lower. Still in a bullish structure here, it's still got daily demand, but worth looking for shorts on that due to the 3-month supply above. MATIC previously had short entry there, didn't quite tap the level, so I threw it back in again. Being a bit conscious that we've got these trend line stops here, so it has gone a little bit higher in the zone there, but it's a 4-day, you know, the alert is for a 4-day and 2-day supply, so still holding that. ADA, and then we'll get to Atom, are the two that screwed up my short entries, but not surprising. Like I just said at the time I put them in, they were aggressive, yeah, so ADA's gone straight through it, you know, and aggressive from the perspective that, so we do have a weekly supply, so it was worth a try, but you're coming off a higher low, so that, you know, if these sellers aren't strong enough to break this demand, then to have an aggressive short entry, assuming a lower high, is not high probability. So in this case, you know, I think it was a 2-day and it's just gone through it. Let me just have a look at the daily and the 2-day quickly. Yeah, so it was a 2-day and it's just gone straight through it. And again, may have flipped that. Now we've got a 3-day demand in there. So stop 100 above that 2-day, but now we're still like, so it's difficult because we are still retracing the downtrend, and it's just 2 waves in correcting this last down move. So strictly we're still in this local downtrend, and I don't like where the bottom is on this, as I said before, but you know, it could have picked up this monthly level and there's 12-hour, 8-hour demand in there. So I don't know, yeah, just again, not very high probability on those at the moment. And next one. Atom, like I say, was basically the same, so I think we had, a daily supply in there, which I thought was worth a try. I had a bit more space than ADA, but again, just bad timing on the market as well, so it's gone up inside it. And also I was wary of this, and this with hindsight was quite stupid, because we do have this 6 month demand here, and I've been saying that for a while, that I wanted to be long biased, but it just wasn't giving me a long, so to short so close to it was probably foolish. It is what it is, we make mistakes. DOT, I had another alert up at the 61, but then I actually noticed that this 2-day hadn't quite hit on that wick, so this has just gone back up into that 2-day. But again, still like maintaining the downward structure. So I still think there is a possibility of these dropping actually now I look at this. But again, we've had 1, 2, 3 ABC, so it's, yeah, hit and miss. Could make a lower high here and then drop, and it was the same for all of them, or could just start moving in an up move again. Sol, again, said for a while, actually, no, that wanted to look at taking stops here, so it has now taken stops. But again, need to see the rejection, but certainly look for shorts on that, because it's stop hunted above here, which is what we originally wanted. Now did have this weekly demand, and now has a 3-day demand again, so it just throws it off from those perspectives. NEAR is one of the weaker ones, despite being one of the main ones that's come off like at least a decent demand that I had alerted. But then I think, it's one of those that could just pick up randomly if it wants to. But yeah, so it's had a second move up, but unlike all the other ones, hasn't made a higher high off that second move up, and is still struggling with local supply. Having said that, it also did come cleanly. It had a much cleaner weekly supply in here, and did come cleanly off it. So you can see, for example, this had a weekly supply, but it didn't have as much of a significant drop off it. So when it retested, it came up a lot deeper inside it. This didn't have weekly supply, and again, Atom, as I've said, did have the weekly, so hence the short was worth a try, but not as strong as this one. And when I say strong, it's because it's closed significantly below the weekly level. Yeah, so that's all the majors, and then we have trillions of alerts. So, I'm just going onto my Telegram just to look at the alerts. Not sure where to start. I'll start a little bit further back, but just be very quick on them. Like, I just want to see how some of the ones earlier in last week performed. So FLR. Okay, so FLR, I had an alert go for, I think would have been 8-hour demand there. Okay, so I had a 2-week supply short. That's actually the alert I'm looking at. Just again, for those who don't follow me, this is what I'm looking at. All my alerts that come from TradingView into Telegram for the premium guys. So FLR hitting 2-week supply there. So that hit the 2-week supply, so that gave a really good reaction. Then I was looking at the aggressive long off here, and it bounced just above the level. And then I've got a short in, so I've mentioned a few times, if we make an 8-hour or 12-hour supply at the top, it is always worth looking for shorts in that. It's possible it makes a higher high still, it's still in an upward structure. And this maybe I'd be slightly wary of, because it's come close to it. But it's always worth looking for possible short entries on that first, even if it just gives you a small move down, even if it doesn't, because there's a possibility it'll go all the way down. But then there's a possibility it's just a small move, but even no matter what it gives you, it's always worth looking if it's made an 8 or 12 hour supply up there. So that's alerted. Then meme was a 3-day supply alert. Okay, so that was earlier there, so again, did get the rejection, and like I said, that around this time I was saying that I'm not sure if we're going to make lower lows at this point, because we still have these trend lines. It's kind of an interesting trend line actually. I wouldn't mind if it fell off there. It could have quite a long fall. So that'd be interesting. That's an interesting one to watch for shorts actually, assuming the market allows that. I'm just going to hide that 3-day because it's in the way. But yeah, decent short entry, but now it's come back deeper into the zone. VINU was 6-month level retest and a 4-hour demand. Okay, so yeah, so this is one from a macro perspective, keep an eye on. Like, I mean, I don't really like that it hasn't moved with Bitcoin, because that's when, you know, when they're allowed to move is when Bitcoin is kind of going up. I suppose all going sideways, but yeah, keep an eye on this one on the high time frame, because we are in a 6-month demand here. So I had an initial entry on the 2-week and then a follow-up entry on the 4-hour inside it. Hasn't broken local supply yet, but keep an eye on that in case it gets a bigger move. It's at least got space to retrace this down move to the immediate supply, and then potentially, if the 6-month plays out, could go significantly further back at the bottom of the range as well. I must have got this 6-month off another chart, or is it? It might be the opening candle. It may not be the most reliable 6-month actually if I've got it off the MACD chart. Yeah, it has gone deeper into it on the previous candle, but so yeah, it's a 6-month retest and then the weekly demand. Still worth watching. It's not the best 6-month, but still worth watching here. RSSR was a 2-day demand, but I wasn't sure if the market was ready, but obviously it was. Okay, so that was a really nice entry. Nice long entry on 2-day demand there for a move back up into weekly supply. I'm going to have to rechart all of these later, but I just don't want this stream to be insanely long, so I'm just running through them really quickly just to see how they performed and to make comment on the ones that failed. I would like to see the ones that failed and versus the ones that worked. Okay, FET, yeah, FET, so I was very much saying watch this, but watch this high time frame. It's got a yearly demand here, and again, it's just bounced just above the level, but obviously has had a reasonable move, but still not broken out, so this could come back down again. But I've reset the alert on this, so certainly keep an eye on this. I mean, it's a yearly zone, so obviously it can retrace, you know, it's the big grey zone. It can retrace the whole thing if it wants to, but you're looking for the reaction ideally off the top of it, or failing that, then there's a 3-month and a 3-week, which I've got alerted lower down. But if we were to hold through here, then you could potentially expect a significant move. Just check up. So that's FET. Then check I'm not getting any comments. ARC is another one I've commented a few times that I wanted to watch because it hit weekly demand. Actually, I'm on the wrong chart now. Okay, so yeah, again we have an alert for weekly demand, and it's also slightly front run it. But again, decent reaction off there. So we did have some nice confidence, I think, actually, and some long alerts hitting. But the problem we also had, not as much as normal, mainly because a lot of things had hit 3-week demand and were just bouncing around in them for ages, sort of similar to this. So they would hit the first alert and then come back and then come back, and I don't necessarily alert multiple times on a zone. So people, again, decent long entry on 4-hour demand here, trying to get through supply but hasn't quite made it yet. Reasonably clean to have a 3-day short there. And again, just we need to see if this is going to hold for a bigger move up or not. So it's still holding structure, but still coming off a higher time frame supply. I would want it to come back down here for a proper long, but you never know, it could hold here and run. So daily demand in there and daily demand below. See if that holds. Just keeping an eye on Bitcoin out of the corner of my eye here. So people, what's next? JTO. I think I had a couple of alerts on and it was being a bit annoying. So yeah, again, so some nice scalps that we've had last week. So JTO, I think I had the original alert on the 3-day, which it didn't quite tap, and then I had a second alert and I put that a little bit lower on the daily, so it then obviously tapped between the two just to be awkward. But yeah, again, made a new daily demand, hasn't broken supply yet, so it's just hit and miss still. Is it going to bounce here for a move up? But also, so all of these are just to keep an eye on, you know, don't trade all of them obviously, and just pick which ones. Okay, then we had a link on the list, which I've talked about already. Then I did make a comment, so just looking at this comment I made in the channel, and alongside there wasn't much. We had ICP, IMX and HNT, which I was liking, so I just had a quick look at those, but I didn't have alerts on them. The problem I had is there weren't many places I could alert the other day. So yeah, ICP, okay, did wick down almost to my alert there, but not, didn't quite hit it. But yeah, again, just these are with the high time frames, I think they were looking stronger than others, you know, again, holding the weekly demand and having had a good bounce off it. With still some space to potentially go to higher supplies, so that's ICP, still definitely keep that on the radar. There were, and also ones that didn't have a weekly supply in there. So that's ICP, and then IMX, okay, this is up 15%, so definitely that was clearly one to watch. On the other chart must be where my, okay, again, yeah, I think again, when I put the alert, there was all this chop through here, and again, wanted to put, well, there was a new weekly created, so I put an alert down on that, but it hasn't come back for it, and it's just held for the breakout. So IMX was one I told you to watch, and that's broken out. I mean, it is in weekly supply, so again, like these are a bit tougher because we've got monthly supply, we've got weekly supply, so I'm trying to be a bit more aggressive than I normally would be when we have major supply. But obviously we've got a bit of chop here, and we are seeing a lot of these ones that just came down since the start of their price action, just going straight back up through. So plus this monthly already got hit here, so a hit there and then a higher low. So again, we just need to see, we need this to fall back and give a re-entry ideally. It's a problem with not being able to monitor these. So obviously this, when did I make this comment? February the 5th. So yeah, it was just in that green candle and breakout, but then yeah, it did actually come back and test the daily, but I sent the alert slightly too conservative. Oops. But yeah, still like that to come back down. If you want to make an aggressive entry, you can set yourself an alert on 2.32 and see if it comes back out down into just this top section of the daily. You can see Bitcoin's trying to come back up again now. So that's IMX, and then HNT. So you can see the structure here is similar to the other two, and it's starting their more ascending triangles rather than the others which are descending triangles. So again, something to watch here. It's come off this daily supply, it's made a new weekly demand. I might throw an alert on that. Oh no, sorry, it's already made a weekly demand and it's come off it. This is why you need to go back to these sort of yourselves and find where you can put the entries, because like invariably when I look at them and they're in situations like this where they're in a daily supply, so I can put an alert back in on daily demand, but if I'm not watching at the right time, then I'm going to miss it. But again, this one's decent, so keep an eye on this. It's in a 3-week supply, but keep an eye on this. Let's see for that daily demand they're holding. Again, it's an easy one with a tight stop. Hopefully it won't do something like that first. But anyway, something else to keep an eye on in case we get a breakout, HNT. Multi's a great example of having multiple re-entries, and I think it's broken down on the long side, but apparently it's yes, I did ask someone to investigate, and it had it's delisted on Binance, which is why, or it's going to be, or if it hasn't been already now, and that was, I guess, why we had the ultimate dump on it. Don't know if it's been delisted everywhere, in which case I probably need to delete this alert, but again, nice example of hit 6 months supply, decent move off it, then 4 hour supply here, entry for a short, came down again, and you potentially could have got a short entry there. Then here it made daily supply, another re-entry, dropped again, another daily supply, and a 3-day supply, another re-entry before the bigger drop. And then I did have a long entry here on the weekly, and with hindsight, like I actually did have it below, because annoyingly this as well also, there was a 2-day demand that I just deleted down here. That was actually where my long entry was before the up move, and really annoyingly it didn't quite hit it before it pumped. But then actually I should have left the alert below because it was unlikely it was going to hold this weekly zone. But I mean, ultimately it went through it anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, really nice example of multiple. I mean, it's very clean. Obviously, it doesn't always get that, and frequently you'll get the final, like particularly like this, because it hasn't broken. It quite often will do this type thing before dropping, and that's actually what I'm looking at. I'll put that back in. That's actually what I'm looking at on a lot of alts at the moment. Maybe not as aggressive as this, but they all have this 2-day up here. They've got a weekly in here, 2-day up here, and I put a lot of alerts for that on a lot of the other alts, which you'll see coming up, just because I'm used to that type of behavior. PEPECOMMUNITY is just painful. I had this horrible wick down, and unfortunately a lot of people followed like this was supposed to be a meme trade, but actually people did follow the stop, so I had to take it. That my stop was too tight for that. Then I put a re-entry once it had pumped, so it was 50% punt, and then I put a re-entry on this 3-day here, which it did get an initial move off, but then made a new supply and then drifted down inside it. But again, you can keep an eye on this. You know, if the market is going to get stronger, this is going to give a really nice move because it's got no clean supply really through here. It does have a 3-week in there, but I think maybe it's already been tested. Look at the 3-week quickly. Yeah, so 3 weeks already been tested a few times, and it's a week, 3-week. Yeah, still keep this on your radar, because if it does hold through here, and if the market's going to allow it, Bitcoin isn't going to dump to hell now. Keep an eye also if it makes a new weekly demand. Like ideally, I'd like it to close up here a little bit higher, and then potentially look for a long on that weekly demand if it makes it. Then. Okay, then 1-day demand and 4-hour inside. So delete some of this stuff out of here. Yeah, okay, so I had the original, the black cross on this, which again I've talked about this a few times because we had a lot of low time frames. So it's coming off monthly supply, so I was very wary, hence why the cross is black. I was like, well, we're hitting this 3-day at the bottom, but it may not hold it. So it did hold, but it went deeper inside it. Then, because it had made a new 2-day supply, so a new 2-day supply in there, I threw in a short entry, which then got it the bigger move down. But then straight off that, we then had this pump back up into 3-week supply, but gave a daily entry for another long in here. So again, shows how you can sort of, if you're very familiar with a coin and if you get good volatility, you can scalp backwards and forwards. So that was pretty nice. But again, back up in monthly supply, so I'm definitely not bullish on this particularly. And again, 3-week supply right here, which has come fairly deep inside, but need to see a bit more on this to be bullish. I mean, yes, it's monthly supply, it's weak monthly supply because it hasn't broken the low, but that doesn't mean it's not going to break the low and then make it strong. But at the moment, it's just going to faff around at the low, so you can keep an eye on that for trading that. If it does make a double bottom, I mean, this is going to have a great move up if it does make that double bottom down there, so you can keep it on your radar because all these supplies are likely to be pretty weak, except maybe that one in the middle, which is a 3-month. Very choppy, so it could like just run straight through here if it makes a double bottom. So that's Zen. Magic. Magic was a bit disappointing, but then it was. I hate breakout trading, and every time I try, it just seems to fail. But other people seem to be very good at it. But for me, it's not something that's on my good at list. Because whenever I try to do it, it always seems to do something like this and end up as a deviate. I mean, to be fair, it hasn't broken down yet, but it certainly hasn't got any strength. But this is one of the ones I said keep on the radar. Like the preferred entry was down here on the weekly. I can see now it has actually made a daily supply in there, so you know, if you did take this long here, yeah, you got a little bounce off it, but I wouldn't necessarily hold on to that at the moment. But you can keep that on the radar in case it does continue up, but it's not exactly been strong on this breakout, so slightly less confident of that, and has hit this sort of 3-month level there as a resistance. Let's see. But again, structurally, this is why I like these structurally, because you can still get, you know, you're still looking at hopefully this. But while we're still in supply, it makes it very hard to assume that. Like I would like this to test this weekly. That's definitely a preferred entry on that, rather than trying to break out, trade it too aggressively. MATIC, we've got multi again because that was the demand alert. NEXA, we had 2 days supply. So again, that's nice and has held, not been any higher on that. I want this to come lower ideally. But again, this sort of illustrates what we'll start to see now on a lot of these alts coming up, that it just became like I was getting slower and slower whilst doing these charts, because it became increasingly hard to choose which supply. In this case, I think it's got a 2 day, but it also had a weekly in there, so that's not so hard to do. Plus it hasn't hit this 3 week demand down here. Well, it's hit it locally, but hasn't hit it, so that was, you know, reasonable to still continue to look for a short on that. But when these do run, the likelihood of them running straight back through all this is extremely high. So that's why we're going to start seeing pumps probably like ID and COTI, which was one of the ones I mentioned on stream as well, as being strong. So yeah, we really want to try and get in these when they are ready to go. And you can see here, you know, when it's got this chop coming down, and eventually it does run. It runs really high through it, and the same here, chop coming down, it runs really strongly through it. So that's what I want to see ideally on this, is higher low, and then that really strong move through all this chop. So that's that. HBAR, I know, I'm pretty sure failed, or it went high in the zone if it didn't fail. So again, yeah, so that's failed. One of the ones, exactly what I said, is indicative, and it was when I was doing the H's that I really noticed this chop coming down. I was just like, some of them I still put them in, so this one I think I put in also because it was coming off a weekly supply, but it hadn't made a lower low, so again, it's not a high probability. Much like you saw on the majors, so it's coming down, but here it hasn't made a lower low, so therefore it's saying this supply is not strong. So when you can try and look short here, but actually when it did get a reaction on the lower time frame, but it's not a strong supply because it hasn't been capable of breaking demand. So this is still the supply that's potentially, that's what was able to break this low. So that's potentially a better entry for a short, so this was just too aggressive. So yeah, you can see it went wick through the zone and it did react, but then yeah, obviously has continued up there. That's HBAR, and I've just made some comments on PEPECOMMUNITY in the channel. That was PEPECOMMUNITY hitting that next zone down. JTO, did I already look? I only looked at JTO because that was the second entry on JTO. DYDX. What's this? Okay, this one I just said is looking interesting. Higher time frame. Just keep on the radar, and I think it didn't hit my long entry. There. I've had another alert go on this. Actually, overnight on this trend line. Personally, I wouldn't trade a trend line break. It's just to be conscious, and certainly wouldn't trade this unless it had really gone through supply. It's right into weekly supply, so it may not be a good trend line break, but you can watch that daily demand if it comes back to that for a long. I remain having a long down here on the 4 day demand, and I'm not convinced by using 4 days, but actually alerted. We've got a few of them on the charts now. I prefer them when they're the same as a 2 day. And in this case, it's not the same as a 2 day. It's just a sort of, it's one a daily. It's not a 2 day. It's just a 4 day. So, but you know, it is the start of the impulse. Maybe there's a 12-hour or something in there. But it'd be kind of nice if we had a fake up and then it came back into the triangle and then did the move. So I guess we'll see. But you can watch this to see if it holds the trend line breakout. There are people who like trading those. Just a comment I made here on Metis, because like Zen, we were looking, I had the long entry, but I wasn't sure whether the market was ready for it. So Metis, yeah, we had this weekly, which I was wary of, if you remember, because it was just tapped on the bottom of those wicks, but it did hold, and it's gone back up into supply. So I think somebody asked me what the target was, and I think I said here that would be the first one, and this would be the second one, but stalling a bit in this 3-day supply, not surprising. Maybe it's a 5-day as well in there, but also decent move there. NMR. So NMR, like I had also had on my alerted list to watch. So yeah, I've just been looking at scalps on this. So we had a 12-hour demand in here, so a bit like FLR, was looking for potential long off the 12-hour demand, which we did get, but didn't get very far. I said it's a high-risk trade in the alert. And then I looked, when it came down here, it then flipped this 12-hour to a short. So again, I put an aggressive entry on the 12-hour supply for the short. So again, that's held, but again, we've still got some demand in here. So there's, that's aggressive just in case we do get the original drop, but that would be my preferred entry, would be up in like hourly or 2-hour supply up here. So you can set an alert up here, and then it's got a 3-week demand down here if it comes back down, and 3-week and then 3-month demand as well. So starting to see maybe some of these moves coming off the 3-month demand. So here, yeah, this is January, so it would have created. Okay, so it created the 3-month here, and it came down deeper inside it. Then it started holding it at a support before the move. So again, it would be nice for this to come back and hold it again as support. Quite often you'll see price dip back down into a demand, and then when it makes the move away, when it comes back the second time, it'll hold the level. So always worth watching those. ENS. That one's February the 7th, so I've still got quite a lot of alerts. I need to be a little bit quicker because I wanted this stream to be shorter, because I want to go to the gym. So ENS, short alert. I'm going to have a cigarette as well, my apologies. ENS, we had a short alert on the daily here, it was really nice. It's come down as slightly front run this 4-hour, although I didn't alert that anyway. Obviously this is one of the stronger coins, so that was a fairly risky short, and can still very easily run. It wasn't even in particularly good supply at the highs, but again, per my comments earlier, if you have a strong move down, in this case it's got a daily supply, but if you've got a strong move down and it makes a 12-hour, an 8-hour, or a daily, and I'll sometimes even do it for 4 hours at the top of the drop, you will invariably get a drop off that. You need to see what new demand's been made and see if it's still going to make a new high, but for the most part it's going to give you some sort of short entry. I imagine the same applies to the long side actually, but I'm just better at saying shorts. I'm just looking to see, so this is going to make a weekly demand. Don't love weekly demands when they're new ones like this, but again, at this point not strong, but it doesn't mean it's not going to hold. So at the moment I've got it written as a 4-day, so I'm going to change that to a weekly. So that's that entry if it comes back. Assuming it doesn't crash before tomorrow, and then it won't be a weekly anymore, but and then there's a daily inside it. So again, if we come back down here, decent entry, may or may not come back down, just need to see what consolidation it gives at the top. So that's ENS, FLR again, we talked about, that was the 8-hour demand, the high risk one. Then we had Justin's coins, because then I was looking at TRX as well for my top signals. Look at TRX quickly. So, because JST and SUN hit supply, so TRX, like EOS, can give a good top signal for the whole market. It hadn't quite hit it was an SFP level, and I think I just haven't had this alerted like I possibly know. Yeah, I wouldn't have alerted this weekly supply because it's already got 2 wicks inside it. I think on the yeah, it's just below the 61 fib on the linear scale, and then I thought, well, maybe it could come out and take that high out, so I have put in a higher alert, but then I also put a more aggressive alert when I saw JST and SUN. So I put a more aggressive alert here on the 4-day, so that coincided quite nicely with EOS alert yesterday, and Bitcoin and Ether, all of those hitting supply. But again, now needs to break demand here to see if we're going to get a continued downtrend off this. Failing that, potentially looking up there as a big 4-hour supply anyway, so it can still go higher inside it, but see what happens. So Sun, I can see Super's had a bit of a pump there. So Sun, weekly supply, again one of the more clean charts. It's got the 2-day inside that I talked about, so a lot of these have this 2-day supply inside a weekly. So those are the ones you want to be looking for, and ones that have had a significant drop, a better drop, and ideally ones that haven't hit demand yet, or in this case it hit a 3-day, but it's not hit the 3-month or the 2-week below that. So getting that reaction off the zone there, that's nice. You can look for re-entries on that too. JST is probably a better one to look for re-entries on, because I know this has a monthly supply. Chart. Okay, so yeah, this took a wick inside it, which doesn't surprise me because it's a wicky type of thing, but monthly supply there. So hoping this gives a bigger drop, but yeah, certainly look for re-entries on this if you can, and if the market allows. Probably going to make a weekly demand in there though, so hard to know, you know, these can just plow straight through them if they want to. So case in point, like here, this would have made a weekly demand there on the close of this green candle, but the green candle went straight up into supply, so the next candle the next week did just go straight back through it. So it can happen, and in this case, like I say, also hasn't hit demand. So there's a 3-month, not far off, but then it's 3-month with a gap, so preference is to go the 3-week inside that. But yeah, you do just need to be conscious it's got that potentially going to have that weekly demand in there, and also in this case hasn't broken local demand yet. But certainly keep looking for shorts on that if you're not in already. It is a 12-hour up there, so if it does something crazy, might actually alert that. So this is a nice clean 12-hour at the top that hasn't been tested. In a weekly supply, still in the monthly, and would take out all of these wicks. So just in case this is still pushing, there's some more wicks up there. And again, the difficulty of this is it hasn't hit weekly supply, but I think that's worth an alert, so I'm going to throw that alert up here, just in case. 12-hour supply inside 1 month. So just in case this takes a wick up to here, I'll have that alert in. GPT was a long, 7% down, so that's looking like it's probably killed the long there. Okay, yeah, so a long that didn't get very far, so what did I have? It was 12-hour and 4-day demand. So again, maybe that's an example of a 4-day not working terribly well. So it's gone back to the weekly level. But again, this has cleanly come off monthly supply, and this is actually a good example of one of the much more bearish charts. So we have a real mix on the charts of things with monthly supply, 3 monthly supply, in this case it's just a monthly, that are coming off them, and then it's just like it's very dependent. So this move from September to January, you really need to look out on any chart you're looking at. There are some that have done this, there are some that have done this and swing failed and come back in and are in many cases below this 3 monthly or monthly again, and then there's some like this that are literally just rejected. So that is the trajectory we're looking for on this at this point. Still worth looking for longs because it doesn't necessarily mean, but it's what you're looking at here is not high probability longs because we're coming off monthly supply. So it doesn't mean we're not going to get a bounce. Like, so ideally on something like this, you've got a weekly demand, you've got a 2-weekly demand, we're going to get a bounce somewhere in here that will take us up to there, but I still would expect a further drop down at this stage until we break that monthly supply. So yeah, this is a bit like Zen. I'm going to put an alert down here on the 3-day, just because you never know, it might give you that bounce in the higher low. 3-day demand, high risk, coming off monthly supply, save. So yeah. So while we did get a little move off here. It was only a 12-hour candle. I mean, it's still in the 4-day demand to be fair, but what was it, 12 hour and 4 days, so yeah, it did hold the 12-hour, it's now broken the 12-hour, but it's still in the 4-day. But yeah, that's not something I want to be shorting, sorry, long. I would want to look for shorts on that type of thing. So on the flip side of these ones that look like they could run up through all these stops, they also look like they could drop off through the stops below. And again, that's making the challenge across the market at the moment. Let's see where it's gone out. So that's GPT, then Atom I talked about already. ID I'll have another look at, so I just threw this in as an example of what can happen when you've got that choppy supply. And in this case actually it was very low time frame supply, I think. There wasn't any... Oh no, there was a weekly in there, it was a weekly, it came off that, but then it held daily. Now it's made a 3-day here. But what I did look at on this is actually most of this candle is 5 seconds. So I'll show you the 1 minute chart. I won't show the 5 second now because it took me a long time to scroll back, and actually probably won't give me that history now, but this is a 1 minute candle, and I looked to see if it was a single order. So it wasn't quite as, there was a big order at the beginning, or at least in 1 second. And then there was a couple more seconds, so there were orders or bots or whatever that followed that up. But I thought it would come down quicker, but then I saw a pump group had picked it up. But also, I mean, like, to be fair, it wasn't necessarily a particularly good supply. It was potentially taking out the stops here, but then it picked up 4-hour demand. Then it made an 8-hour, maybe it's got a daily in there now, no. So it's got a 12-hour demand. I might alert that just for amusement value. Because that might get picked up if it comes back down, and then I set another alert for the next reels above, I guess. So that's 12-hour demand. Take out the stops from below the 8 hours, so that wouldn't be horrendous. But yeah, I would like to wait for another push on this and see if we can get up into this sort of area. Look at the bigger picture again, so yeah, this is certainly somewhere I'd go for a short on this, and then just see what happens when it comes back down into this area. Again, so the 3 months, I will say. Potentially could flip as a support, that 3-month level. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna take that off now. Yeah, so possible scalps on this if it comes down into the 12-hour here. Keep an eye on the 3-month level if it comes a bit deeper into it, and potential shorts up there on ID. I'll have a quick look at XMR. So this was just again an example I threw into the channel about what happens when support is hit too many times, because that happened. Didn't quite hit my long entry, and then I threw in a short entry, I think at the time, up on this 2-week supply. If it retests, it hasn't come back up there, but yeah, again, real nice structural example, but how monthlies can take a really long time to play out. So this is a 2-month supply. It hit here, it didn't make a lower low. See, in this case, while this wasn't strong enough to make a lower low, we still did get the lower high here. Hence, and again, it was that daily which hadn't been tested at the start of the drop. So again, I think it's wicked through it a little bit there, but not a bad short entry. Then I obviously didn't look at this in time, but also gave you a really nice weekly supply re-entry. So then we've got this alert down here, which is 6-month level at 88 and 2-week demand. And the 6-month level I think is lower on Binance than it is on I guess whatever other chart I was looking at. So yeah, that's the alert coming in there for potential longs if we get down into this 6-month zone, which is looking fairly likely. There's a real nice back test of the trend line there as well. So this is kind of how I see Ripple as well. So yeah, as an example for you of why I'm kind of not really liking the look of Ripple, because I see it as quite like this, like while it may be making decent demand, it's not, like each bounce is just appearing weak compared to what we've had previously. So that's XMR. Cyber was one to watch, and I think I just set an alert on that earlier. Cyber just looks strong, and again is one of the ones with no supply. So it's got a daily supply which is sort of very close to hitting there, has hit again, so I'm expecting it to break if it goes again. So I set an alert here, like my preference again would be the daily at 7 here, but I don't want to be front run, so I've set the alert a bit higher. There's a 4-day at that pink line, and there's a daily, so you're looking for entries 7 to 7.2 in here. And you know, just get out if it breaks the trend line, or if it doesn't show strength off those levels. That's kind of what I'm looking at. And hopefully it won't take off without me, but you can keep an eye in case it does. JUP, we had a 1-day supply if it confirms, and a 4-hour inside it. Okay, so yeah, that was neat. And again, an example of how, you know, if you are in a downtrend, that supply new demand is going to break. So we were still in this daily downtrend here. We had this very nice entry, but then it had made a daily demand here. I think I did point that out in one of my previous videos, but you can see, and I think it did try to bounce a little bit on there. So yeah, it had a few little bounces, but then came through it. So there is another daily supply. Let's check there's nothing higher time frame. So there's a daily and there's a 2-day. So this is still worth shorting. I'm going to bring that alert down. So I've seen, you know, I still see a lot of people trying to long this and just getting screwed after screwed. Like, and crypto becomes difficult because, you know, at some stage this will just go up. But I see a lot of people. Oops, didn't want to do that. I see a lot of people just doing it without any sort of confirmation whatsoever, or they'll see a green candle and then they're just like, yeah, let's go long. But always look at what supply you're coming from, and you know, this is still in a downtrend. So it's still, this is probably possibly a little too aggressive for shorting. Oh, didn't mean to do that. The alert went off already. Let me just ignore that alert. Yeah, so yes, you can long. You know, it's made a 4-hour demand now. It's had a little bounce. Yes, you can long, but you really know that you're longing in a downtrend, and that it's not a high probability trade, and the high probability trades are shorts. Unless they know something I don't, and this has some chart history somewhere else where it was just showing this as support. I mean, the downtrend is dying off a little bit so far, but again, until proven otherwise. So I'd look for a 1-day, 2-day supply entry there, possibly a more aggressive one. Yeah, so like I said, it might be too aggressive, so if you want to be more sensible, you could potentially wait till the 1 hour up here, and then there's also the 4-hour untested. If it decides to just be difficult, but it's still in a downtrend. Okay, so that's JUP. CTC, I commented, was on 6-month demand. I think I might have had another alert go on that. Okay, yeah, that was a trend line alert. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I just put in the channel that it had hit 6-month demand, but again, it didn't have an entry that I particularly wanted, but absolutely keep an eye on this. It is just hitting weekly supply, so wait for it to come back down and for a retest now. Daily, so was that a 2-day or a day? Daily. Would have liked to have seen this push a little bit higher, but I am going to set an alert for here, a retest. 1 day demand coming off 6 months demand. That's definitely, it's not. So it's not a confirmed, so the reason I'm saying that is it's not a confirmed uptrend yet. And obviously it's in weekly downtrend still. But what you're doing here is you're preempting whether the daily is going to hold to then form a daily uptrend, which then will potentially have the capacity to take out the weekly. So yeah, that actually would have given quite a nice entry there, because DYDX, which we'll see, did I cover already? I can't remember. I think I did cover that already. I'm just going to delete the alert off this trend line. Yeah, DYDX, so I normally put them on a 4 and 8 hour close over the trend line. DYDX did a big candle over, so it made it harder to enter. This has only done a couple of candles over and did give an entry almost straight off that, so that's pretty nice. Okay, now we're in the more recent ones that we're hitting, like when Bitcoin was pushing. So OP. This is a nice example of a 2-day in the weekly supply that I was looking at. So again, I put this one in because we hadn't properly hit demand. It's had a second push in there. Is it going to make a weekly demand? So again, so all of these are going to be similar. So I'm probably going to whiz through these really. So made a 3-day demand. Coming off 2 days of supply, just need to, and weekly supply, just need to see if these are going to hold or not. Sorry, that's the 3-day, not weekly. And they're going to be variable. So again, if you want to take longs, then pick the ones that have hit something significant down here. So this is a yearly, demand, and that'll be a very aggressive entry there. Obviously OP is one of the stronger ones, but the preference would be an entry probably down here. What have I said? 3 month and 3 day. And 1 week a bit inside, so the preference would be an entry a little bit lower than that cross. But yeah, so you're looking at, are these 3-day dailies going to hold? And again, trade both directions, or are we going to get the bigger wave down to here? OP, I didn't look at HFT. So HFT, yeah, so this was a 1 week supply. I put a comment trying to be a bit more aggressive, but higher risk now because it's so choppy. So again, when I was doing the H's, like I said, I commented on this. 3-day supply also here, and 1 day supply higher inside the weekly zone. So that's that 1 day inside. And again, is holding for now this daily here. I'll just delete the cross by mistake. So yeah, that's just choppy, and it's not a strong weekly, so this is not necessarily one I would consider particularly high probability. And just check what the monthlies are doing. Messy. Okay, so that's a 3 month, but it hasn't confirmed, so that shouldn't be. So it has made a monthly demand, but it's not the world's best monthly demand. So we are in a monthly demand, but so this is not a monthly demand I would long, but it's also one that makes it not necessarily high probability on shorts. We can see what sort of mess it is, so it's like made a weekly supply. But I think one of those ones I showed earlier is one of the ones that's just come straight back through this weekly supply after the first test. It comes down, hits the daily demand, and then takes off. But yeah, this is just too much of a mess for me to really consider. And then KLAY I think was very similar. So a couple of these earlier ones to hit did push higher in the zones. So KLAY similar, we had 2-day supply here, and then it's pushed up, and I think I reset the alert for a bit higher because it was clear the market wasn't ready to have that initial drop. And again, low probability supply here, exactly the same structure as I've mentioned previously. Sure, it's a 2-day, but it didn't take out any demand. In fact, didn't really go very far. So some of these I also set not knowing what they're going to do. I would have set it when it was on this candle, or even just after that candle. So like I don't know that it's not going to come back and just test here. And I don't know that it's not going to throw a giant red candle before coming back for the test. So again, that's why I say everybody needs to chart on themselves and judge their thoughts. This is something I'm okay with looking for shorts on, not much more so than HFT, because again, we're in a giant 3-month supply, one of the ones, and then we're rejecting this monthly at the top of it. So I'm still okay with looking for shorts on this while we're under supply. But then if it does start to show strength, potentially look for a move. You've got a yearly zone here, and then a massive gap if it is going to break. So, but it's very early days and still under that monthly supply. So monthly supply is, swing failed, it's gone down, it's made a lower low, and now it's retesting. So again, we're still in this downtrend. But again, so let's look at the weekly. So it's going to make a weekly demand. So hence my indecision. So this is going to be potentially a weekly. Put that in there. I have to update all these tomorrow anyway, just to confirm they are going to make the weekly in case we get a dump in the next couple of days. And I just want to see whether these weeklies are going to hold. So I need to throw all these into a separate watch list, which I'll do a little bit later to keep an eye on them. Okay, so is that weekly going to hold for another push up? At the moment, I'm not confident that it will because we've got monthly supply. So my bias is still short, but if this holds, then that can change. ID, I just put a comment on tier. I know failed, which is not surprising, but it was an aggressive entry and it was too slow to hit. So also is going to make a weekly demand now. So we had some really good longs on this. So there's a 3 week there and a 2 week which didn't get tested, and that's going to be a 2 week tomorrow actually. So this is going to give potentially a long entry on that 2 week tomorrow. So it wasn't a good short with hindsight, but also I think I placed it. I think that one is another one that was placed long before the fact. I can't remember exactly, so I can't confirm that because sometimes I throw them in just to see. But so you can see how so there was a 4 hour. Let me show you the 4 hour. So there's a 4 hour supply in here. You can see it's also a bit choppy. I think it may have been an 8 hour. Might have been the alert. Yeah, okay. So the 8 hour has actually had a local test. But then you can see it's taken significant time to get back to it. It's gone back into major demand, and in this case it went into 3 week demand. And then has rejected just below, so for it to go through here is really not surprising at all. I'm going to put an alert here for 2 week demand, because I assume that's going to confirm. May not be a strong demand in this particular case, so the others have closed more strongly over. Let me show the weekly. So with this weekly, it's closed very strong over, come back down, tested it, taken off again. This one hasn't closed over the high of the weekly as yet. Again, doesn't mean it's not going to work. And in fact, this probably, this didn't actually go that much higher. That came down in the 3 day. Yeah, so the weekly did close strong and then it came back down inside. Anyway, yeah, this could just break now, so we'll see. But at the moment, it's not a strong weekly. It's closing, potentially going to close on a swing failure, but still we'll look for a long entry here and on that 2 day right below. Good for long entries. Tier, MATIC we talked about. ADA we talked about, STX, still been slower than I wanted on this. So STX, another clean 2 day supply, so you can keep an eye on that for continuation. Is going to make also a weekly demand. So this is going to make a weekly demand, and it's come through all the way through this monthly supply. Still up in the 3 week supply at the top, but 3 month demand, quite far away from that. yeah, just need to see some follow up on this. Need to see if that weekly, if this weekly is going to confirm, which it probably will, but then is it going to hold? But anyway, it's going to give you a decent move down to there, if nothing else. So at least I can see, at a minimum, this market's probably going to take a bit of time, unless Bitcoin really throws a COVID-style candle and just takes everything out, in which case these will just whip straight through the weekly demands. Oh, I think I set this a bit higher because of that three day in there that could get picked up. So either we're going to get a COVID style dump, or we're going to see potentially just some more faffing around here, which could end up going like that, or just could end up faffing around and breaking out. So similar to this, we could just see that drift down, or at least back into the demand. But anyway, that's something you can watch for shorts. So most of these now coming are going to be shorts, except for the first one actually. Say that MUBI. I think this did go. Okay, so that's still thinking about it. So this is something you can look for a long. It hasn't actually quite hit the level yet. So this was 5 day, 3 day, 1 day. So there's choppy sort of mess in here, but yeah. Keep an eye on that for shorts. This is a 3 day supply where I've got an alert for, keep an eye on this for longs, and then I've got an alert for possible short there, and then it does have a weekly supply, but I think the alert was more aggressive, assuming it hadn't hit demand first, which it now has. So I'm going to leave that actually to watch, so I'm not going to enter this now, but what I would like to watch is for the bigger move. So if it comes up here and rejects here, then I'd like to see what demand's been made, and then I potentially look for a long. But that'll at least give me signs that it's showing strength. But okay, so that's MUBI, BICO. So again, so BICO, similar to everything else, not going to make a weekly demand, but it has made a 3 day demand. It's come off a 2 day supply. So again, just want to see if that gives us a bigger drop. Not a strong supply in this case. So again, this is not coming off lower low. But again, doesn't mean it's not going to work, and at least it's making a triangle. So hopefully at least this would get that move down into 3 day, 2 day here. And again, the bigger structure on this is still down, 2 month supply up here, and monthly demand down there, and 3 week demand. So I'd still like to see this come lower, but may or may not get that. BICO, BIGTIME. So BIGTIME, yeah, so the alert went in for what was it, weekly plus 3 day supply, I think. But then I also commented 3 day supply, so weekly when it hit, I also commented that it had also, so we've got the log trend line, and we'd also just broken this trend line. So got to move down onto daily demand, but it made a new daily demand, so I just had to be a bit careful with this one because it was probably too aggressive. Given the break of trend line. I mean, it is a weekly supply, but yeah, it's not the best structure. So this is one certainly that could start to look to run through some of this if it's made a bottom there. My only preference on this was that it get lower into proper demand. So, but you can keep an eye on that for longs actually, or longs or shorts. So if you see the daily demand break, you can potentially look at getting into a short. But for now, I think there's a lot of people who will trade this trend line break. So yeah, just be a little wary. I don't know, having said that, it has now made a fall. Yeah, it's just a rangy, so we've got a 8-hour demand in there, but it's come off, but now also made a 4-hour supply. Yeah, I'm mixed bias on this really. Don't like it when I see things like this that haven't been tested higher in zones. And actually, I think in this case it had a whole lot of stuff that wasn't tested, so I think I'm going to put the aggressive alert, and either it drops straight away or I'm just going to let this potentially run straight through everything before it gets to 5-day up the top. But yeah, you can keep an eye on that. This could very much go either way. I mean, I actually think shorts probably aren't that high probability. There are much higher probability shorts to be looking at. So maybe leave it alone for shorts, but you know, keep an eye on it for longs potentially. Because if it does hold, then it's got a lot of potential. So BIGTIME. NMR we've talked about, LTC we've talked about, BTT was a really nice example. So BTT, so this had a pump, hit a weekly supply, and it was actually quite a nice entry off 4-hour demand down here. I think I had the entry on the daily, but didn't look at it thereafter. Well done. Just going to compliment on my CTC call, thank you. So yeah, this hit the weekly supply, but I didn't have the alert in because I hadn't checked it. Yeah, we had an alert on daily demand, but it came significantly deeper, did hold. So bear in mind, you know, when I put in my crosses, like, you know, I kind of don't really consider that a success, but really from an alert perspective it is. You know, it's a daily demand, it's a zone, it's not, we're looking, you know, from the line there might be a bounce, but that, you know, it's only if it breaks the zone that it's failed. But obviously you've got to choose how to trade it. So anyway, this was a nice re-entry that I got, and this is an example of a really tight re-entry. So I think I threw in another alert up here in case it was going to get the continuation into the 2-day supply, like I alerted on everything else. We've now got 12-hour supply there, 8-hour supply inside, which I am going to alert. And what I got there with the entry, and there's a 4-hour there as well. So I'm going to put the alert slightly lower on that basis, and because it's at the weekly level. So this entry was a 30-minute, as you can see the comment, 30-minute supply in weekly supply. So again, this is where you're getting the really tight entries and what you're really looking for when my alert goes, you're looking for a decent reaction and then a supply you can short. If the supply, if it comes back up and takes out some stops, even better. But you know that, and you sort of short here, your stop loss can be just above that wick, and then you're instantly in high risk to reward. You know, and then if you want to hold it for the big drop, that's up to you. Personally, I scalp because I haven't got the patience. So I'm going to throw in another, I'm going to bring this alert down. I need to refresh my chart, that's why the alerts are still there. One alert. So I'm going to go 4-hour and 8-hour supply here. And try and get the re-entry on that. Didn't look at this low time frame to actually know if that's a, look at the 2-minute chart, if that's like a single, no, so that was a build-up trade over time. It wasn't just a fat finger like ID. You know, so I can be wrong, you know, obviously this can just correct ABC and then do another move up. It doesn't have support here, so I have that in my favor, unless it's trying to pick up something. You know, I might be trying to pick up something over here or one of these old zones. But for me, I'm looking for it to hit demand, so I wouldn't want to take this, but I'd still take this aggressively even if it had hit demand, the same as NMR and FLR, like they are. It's had a big up move, and the chance of it retracing it are reasonably high when it's coming out of a weekly supply. So that's that. QTUM. I keep seeing REC coming up with this 38% move. Okay, QTUM 1 month supply, really nice. Look for re-entries on that. So look at what this mess is doing. Probably So yeah, it's kind of, yeah, it's just a messy chart. So it's in a 3-month supply, it's hit it once, hasn't made a lower low, so now it's come up. So it's kind of doing a giant triangle really. Arguably it's flipped a 3-month, but while I don't like what's going on over here and it's making it hard to judge, we had got this monthly supply in here. So worth looking for shorts. We've got an annual level down here, which has obviously come deep inside, but again I'm looking for that retest on the top of the annual level, and then there's also a 3-week demand right inside it. So ideally I want long entries down here, and because we've got a monthly supply there, it was certainly worth the shorts. We're looking for shorts. It's a bit wicky and messy. I've got a monthly supply and then a weekly supply, so I'd like to see this come down here, so look for re-entries on that. Much like everything else, it's got this, is it 3-day demand there? No, it's a 2-day demand. It's got a 2-day demand in there. So yeah, you need to see the breakdown this 2-day, but that's one of the better shorts that I like. Hopefully, I don't like this up here. Again, 12-hour. So yeah, just keep an eye on this. Yeah, I just don't love, this is when I get confused, because I start kind of going, well, we could retrace all the way up there, we haven't tested here, we haven't tested here, but we do have a month level here, so it's worth looking for the entry there and just seeing what the reaction is. If this then fails, or if it makes a higher low, because we are in this sort of mini uptrend locally here, if we see another higher low, then we can potentially expect this level or this level for that monthly supply to still play out. So that's why monthlies can be a little bit harder, and why I often forget to go back and look at them. RSR. RSR 1-week supply, also just showing the initial reaction so far. Won't go into more detail on that. This is what's going to happen with a lot of these now, and I'm still being way longer on this stream than I wanted to. 3-week, 1-month supply, so we've hit the 3-week, the 1 month is a little higher. Is that 1 month? No, 1 month, no, it's a new 1 month, so I'm going to reset that alert in case we push a little bit higher on this. Just so I can keep an eye on it. But again, one of the more awkward ones could pump through this if it wants to, but it's a 1 month supply. Week 1 month supply, daily demand, a couple of hits on daily demand, few, it's not exactly a strong impulse. Like if it consolidates through here, then it might get a push that gets through that monthly, but yeah, prefer shorts on that for now. FLOKI. FLOKI was a 1 month supply as well. So yeah, certainly keep an eye on that one for shorts. Yeah, again, just reiterating, so many of these I just need to see how these react. Like, are they going to make, are they, you know, so they're weak. Again, reiterating, we haven't broken demand, this is a weak supply. It's a particularly weak supply because it hasn't made a lower low after that. So is it going to work? Possibly. Is it high probability? No. Does it have a lot of stops that it could go for up here? Yes. So yeah, you know, it's still holding support. But you know, we can see here, you know, it's similar type thing going on here. We still held support here. We still had the pump there, and I could have said the same thing. You know, there was a daily demand here, and we had a few days before falling off it. So I need to see this come down. Are we going to have a few days sitting on here going sideways, as I commented before we fall off it? But yes, I just don't overexpose on this stuff. Damn, I can see that my Euro New Zealand went into the wrong channel. KLAY. This was one of the ones I gave early on structurally when people were just talking about the whole market being sort of uber bull. I was saying, unfortunately, at that point, and still even now, a lot of what I was looking at, and KLAY was actually behind the ball when I kind of drew this, but this is the downtrend. It has to break here to be an uptrend. and in many cases we've only got a swing failure of those highs into supply just above, and that makes the challenge, is that in those cases they've come down, a lot of these things have come down and flipped 3-month demand. Same as here, you can see it sort of flipped this 3-month level, but it's only off a swing failure, so again it's not as strong, and in many cases it has hit a monthly just above it. So they're still very indecisive on structure, but it's certainly not looking bad, and certainly is worth looking for the re-entries. So in this case KLAY was just a 3-day supply here, potential flip at that 3-month level, so again it's not necessarily the best supply to be shorting because of that 3-month in there, but again I prefer longs down there, so throw the short in, see what happens. And it was a bit of a high risk one, a bit like tier, but I guess, so I set alerts on these trend lines because I'm just like, when is this thing ever going to die? And I had a few entries on this longs, really nice longs last year, and then the thing kept going. Then I managed to get another couple of longs on it a bit later. I think I wasn't doing much in the middle of last year, yeah, again, so this had a 2-day supply, so I thought it was worth considering a short on that, but obviously this is still in a very solid uptrend, so it has wicked down off it, but it's not, that's not necessarily a high probability short, but I think when it comes, it will be a really nice short, because it's just going to tumble straight off this trend line. So keep your eyes open for that, and I think there were no alerts above that I really wanted to set, because again everything's just choppy. But yeah, the trend line alerts is what I'll be keeping an eye on that. And this 2-day was just a possibility. Did get a reaction, but it's come straight back up again. Why everybody wants to buy Ant. What's so great about Ant? BONK. BONK I know is being pushed by some of the influencers, so it doesn't surprise me. It's gone through, so we've got a second alert on that. So yeah, so I did have an alert, I think, on, what is this? Let's see what that was. Weekly supply, and also untested 2 weekly above. So it's gone up into the 2 weekly. More to think about this. Okay, so it's a 2 weekly, it's decent strength, but potentially going to make a weekly demand here. It's in an overarching 3-day demand, so again it's still holding bullish structure, so shorts on this again not necessarily high probability, but a 2 week is always worth watching. So yeah, again just watch the lower time frame structures on this, just if you're wanting to short it. But again, there's probably better probability shorts that could be taken on this. Could also possibly take out that weekly into this 2-day up here. Yeah, I won't think about that too much more now. QI. Just really got far too many alerts, so much for this being a quick stream. I'm being relatively quick about going through them, but so yeah, QI weekly supply has just come off just below it, and I think yeah, it came off really hard, and then it's just pushing back up. So you can watch that again if it comes back up into the level for another entry, long entry below. And then I made a comment that we didn't quite get the EOS short signal. PYTH, we had a crossing trend line alert, but again I think it went, this causes me pain, yeah, so I think the alert was on a 4-hour, and I think the candle was just too quick to go through it. So again, I've set the re-entry 12-hour demand here, which has just gone off, but hasn't quite hit the level again because it hates me. And also has a daily in there. So if this does come back down for a second test, you can just look at the 48.49 for a re-entry on that if you've missed this. DGB, I know I looked at TRX already. DGB, what is it? 1 week supply, so yeah, just head into that. It's given you a 4 hour in here, so you can look for a re-entry on that 4 hour. And again, just check below what demands you've got in there and whether you're going to have a new weekly made. ETC, another really neat one. This is an example of one of the 2 days that I was looking at for that short. You know, it does have a decent amount of demand on this now, so you just need to be a little bit careful. Is this going to make a weekly? No weekly demand on that. It's got a 3 day kind of just here. So yeah, again, it's not. I prefer, like, for the shorts, like, you know, you can try and jump in any of these trends if you want. Just really be really careful of what demand you've got going on right below, that then could push for a next high. So it obviously, this, you know, you want to see a more significant drop before selling the retest. You want to see a drop taking out some of this demand. There is quite a nice trend line of stops there that could get targeted. But again, this is going to need BTC to target trend line stops below as well. But again, you can potentially look at that. Look at watch this come down, watch it go back up again. Try and look for a short on the 4 hour if you get it. If it starts going through, then just leave it alone for now. But you want a bigger drop before looking for that short re-entry, I think, on something like this. Got a yearly level there as well, so just be conscious of that. EOS, we finally got our EOS short signal, and that's when all of these started to move actually. INJ, weekly supply, again just coming back down into demand there, so you just need to watch these, see whether they're going to give you. EDU again was a 2 day supply. We do have, it's obviously pushing a little bit higher in this case, and I can see there it's coming off, so it's flipped to 3 month demand on this. It's come quite down quite deeply in the 3 month demand, so yeah, this is again not a high probability short. I probably expect it to take out that high. So look for long re-entries on this. Up to you if you want to short it. Like, it has done quite a big candle, which could potentially retrace, so this is going to make a weekly demand. Sadly, it didn't hit my alert for longs off the lows on this 3 week demand. So I'm going to move that up, because I actually think this is probably better for a long a bit higher now. So 3 day / 1 week demand. So this is something that I can potentially see holding a bit higher. Just looking at the structure, and because of the fact the structure's come off this 3 month demand, or this 3 month demand, then potentially we could get that hold of the level when it comes back, so hence they're putting a new long entry in here. So 2 day supply could still work, and I would still like to see it reject first, so don't FOMO in, but could go to this, you know, because it's pushing still a little bit, could go to this 8 hour inside it. But yeah, that's probably more long biased, is better, but wait for the retrace. Kotia was just cursing because it was one of the ones I mentioned on stream, and then it took off, but I haven't looked at it again. Silly, I think, was dying last time I saw it. It was one of those, a long alert at the completely the wrong time, so I don't know what happened to Silly. So this, I mean, again, this happens sometimes. I try to, obviously it's in a downtrend, and it's, you know, following my own rules, like, you know, this is clearly a daily downtrend, but because it hadn't hit, supply on this up move, and the market was going up at the time, I thought it was worth looking for a possible long entry. But then in this case, the weakness, it's just come off 2 day supply there as well. In this case, the weakness meant also demand didn't hold, so it wasn't weakness because it was waiting to hit demand for another up move. It was just meant demand wasn't going to hold. So yeah, example of a failed short, failed long SQL. Higher probability on the short side. This isn't an annual supply, so I definitely want to look for re-entries short re-entries on this. 2-day supply, so wick has come off slightly below that, but yeah, keep an eye on this for shorts. Obviously can still go higher in the annual supply, but at this stage I'm wanting the short bias based on the yearly, and I think it hadn't hit. Oh, it's got a local hit here on the yearly, but I'm thinking, yeah, I'm biased short based on yearly supply on this. As you can see, yearly supply. Because I've seen that some of these that have played out really strongly. And while, you know, obviously it looks strong, that is important. Comment EOS finally hit the zone. DYDX crossing the trend line I've already talked about. MOVR. So again was a more aggressive 4-day supply possible weekly, so the 4-day is the pink and the weekly is the black. So again, it's obviously a more aggressive entry and a risk entry, and one of the ones that could run through it, but again, just keep an eye on this. Like, again, not one that has hit any sort of demand really. What's going on over here? Okay, one of those fun MEXC charts where they've deleted, I know all the data is there, it's just there on the daily. Yeah, okay, potentially trying to pick up support here, but it's not one that I'm overly confident of longs at this point in time, but it does have a daily demand, but you can see, so if it breaks this daily demand, then certainly look for a short re-entry on this for a bigger move. ARB. So ARB actually reset, oops, I reset the alert, I'm not sure if it's gone again. Like my alert, you can see here on this chart actually, because I haven't refreshed the page, was the alert was far too early last night, so I actually reset the alert again. I'm not sure if it's gone, it might have gone off for the second time now, but again it's still slightly short of the level, so again keep an eye on this if it makes another move up, and look for a rejection a little bit higher. CTC crossing trend line we've already discussed. Then see, I'm quite interested to see what this has done actually. Okay, yeah, so LUNC, I had this aggressive entry at the first cross from, when was that, last weekend? Yeah, last Saturday, for weekly supply, and also coinciding with the 6-month level. And it came down hard, went up again, rejected, came down hard, and then it was pushing, was still continuing to push. So while again wanted a bit lower on this, it is possible it's come off the wicks, you know, is there a support and this monthly flip level. But again, 6-month supply, so I'm still, well, it's gone very high in 6-month supply. I don't know why my 6 months is drawn all the way up there, or is this another MEXC? Yeah, it is. MEXC data isn't that great. So it is 6-month supply. Okay, it's making higher lows, and it's gone really high in that 6-month supply. But yeah. Okay, so from a structural perspective, firstly I want longs a bit lower if I can get them. Obviously we're forming a little bit of a daily uptrend here, but we haven't broken weekly supply. So my bias is still short on this for now. If it breaks this weekly supply, then we can start, and if it makes a weekly demand, which it might, no, it will not make a weekly demand. It does have a 3-day demand below and 4-day by the looks of it, and may make another 3-day here. You know, if it starts to make these demands and we see these demands hold, then sure, we can start flipping long, but at the moment my bias is still short, we're still in a downtrend. So continue to look for short, so that was a decent short entry there. However, be conscious we do have all this demand down here. This is a risk for a short on this particular chart. It's had a nice little triangle it's broken up from, so again, if it comes back straight back down through this demand, then you can look for a short on the flip of supply. Key, yeah, I don't think I've looked at these today's. These are today's alerts. Okay, so we're almost at the end. For anyone who's had the patience to carry on watching me, one person. Okay, so key, what was this? This is a 3-week supply. Okay, again, it hasn't quite hit the zone. So again, keep an eye on that if it pushes again. And or it could be an early short, so I had it's got a 3-week supply, but it also has a 2-week a bit lower. So I think, yeah, the 2-week had already got tested, so hence I put the alert a little bit higher on the 3-week there. Again, this is sort of a giant triangle, but coming off 3 monthly supply. So I can't, yeah, my bias is very mixed on this, coming off 3 monthly supply, coming off 3 monthly demand. If this is going to get a big triangle breakout, then it would be really, really nice, but I need to see that supply break first and need to see it hold through here. Kind of an interesting chart though, from a macro perspective. But you know, like I say that, and it could be just like PHB, which I was bullish on for ages, but literally took a decade to even get sort of here. But yeah, I quite like that for a possibility of a macro long, but for the moment it's short bias. With okay, come off monthly demand. I wanted it on weekly inside that. It's a monthly based on the first candle, so it's not necessarily the world's best monthly, and it's just about to hit weekly supply there. So again, you can look for shorts on this. It's only just hit, so just move that down here. It's also got a bit of space. So the ones today might be better because they might pumped a bit late, so they're going to have a bit of space to the demands. But yeah, you can keep an eye on that for a possible short. But again, so the risk here, A, B, C, and is that we're going to just go up, but at least hopefully a retracement first, if not a further drop. Data. Data 4-hour supply. Okay, so I did put the comment on this that it's a bit too long consolidating since I originally set this alert and now has a weekly demand. So I said a tight weekly demand, as in, yeah, so it was closed a weekly demand and then pushed off immediately after. Might make a 3-day here. Yeah, so it's got some support going on through here. I wish I could stop using 4 and 5 days. It's just, we've had such a choppy PA that it's been very hard. So yeah, there was a bit too long consolidating before this. As I've said, these are ones that I would like to, I like to look for re-entries if you've had a big drop and it leaves like a clean supply like that. But when it's hit many, many times just below that, it doesn't necessarily, firstly it's built up a lot of new demand, but it also doesn't necessarily mean it's high probability. However, in this case it does look like it's giving something, so if anybody got in that already, it'd be alright, but just be a bit wary and a bit wary of all the demand that's below. I think I liked that from the perspective if it did work, it could just take out this trend line, so I've also alerted the trend line to see what happens there. But also trapped between, so we've got 3-month demand, I've got a yearly demand in there as well. No, it's under, so it's a yearly supply in fact. But it's got a 3-month demand, hasn't quite tapped off the top of it. But again, coming down from monthly supply. So rock and hard place, but wouldn't mind it seeing dropping further before looking for a proper long entry. And or now, like if we get a strong close on this weekly candle, then yeah, it's going to make a 3-week demand actually, so this is potential for longs. Better potential for longs than I originally thought. So it's got 3-week, 2-week. Might set that. I'll set those alerts for. It's a pretty big zone. So I'll set those alerts, and then if we get the trend line break, then we flip bias. But I want to look for the long re-entry on this. So here, if we get it, one week to 3-week demand. see what happens on that. PYTH that I just talked about, you know, that it hit the alert but didn't quite hit the level, and then JUP 1 day, then 3 day supply. I feel like I did JUP, but maybe I didn't. Oh no, that was something to delete. Yeah, so that was me putting the new alert in and it posted by mistake. Yeah, okay, so that's it. And now I need to go to the gym. So, hope you enjoyed that, if you had the patience to stay and watch. And that's an update of all the alts that we've had alerted recently. Ciao.